Obviously excited about today. We finally get to get these guys signed up for our program. You know, we've been recruiting these guys for a long time, and finally officially we can sign them and talk about these players. But 19 total signees, 9 on offense, 10 on defense. You know, 7 guys from the state of Ohio, Indiana, right close by. And then I think probably the thing about this class, probably the biggest thing that we went out after was size. You know, I think this class, when you think about 8 offensive and defensive linemen, 4 and 4 on each side of the ball. I think we had 12 players that are 6'3" or better. Going to look more like Big 12 type players when you think about length and size. And these guys will obviously, get to the program. They will fill out. A bunch of them will be here in January. In at least 6 months we'll go through to be able to change their bodies in order to prepare to play next fall. As you think about last year's class, we had so many guys that ended up playing last year for us, over 900 snaps out of freshmen. So we will be counting on some of these guys to come in here and help us next year and help us play. And, I think this is the model that we want to do. As you think about signing roughly 20 high school players every year and then getting into the portal, which will start next week, and you're getting, 12 to 14 where you're filling in some gaps. So I think that's a good formula to go about year after year to help stabilize the team. But also bring in some really good players. And, I think right now also as we're recruiting high school players, that's what today is, but we're also recruiting our own team right now. As you're trying to get these guys back, the core guys come back off our team. And then signing this is great today and exciting today, but then next week we open up the portal and we'll be adding guys in next week as well. So it's a busy time for us right now, but a very exciting time as well. Open up with questions.
You talk about guys being able to come in and help right away, but on the offensive and defensive lines, do you have to understand that those guys probably, and maybe a defensive lineman or two, but those guys are probably going to be more developmental long term?
Yeah, usually linemen when they come in. I think these groups, there's 8 guys here that do have great length and great size. Now, if they come in January, we've had some guys that come in January that go through 15 practices that also go through the winter program and the summer program that end up putting on. We've had guys in the past put on 40 pounds within that 6 or 7 months, and now they're able to help you in the fall. So, I don't really want to rule out any of these guys that will not be able to play for us this fall. They may, but usually, to your point, as you look at offensive linemen, usually they take a little bit more time to develop. Sometimes your defensive lineman can get you some minutes in there, particularly if they do have size. If they're close to 300 pounds, they can get in there and get you, even if it's 8 to 10 plays a game, that's going to help you get some bigger beef in there and help rest some of the other guys as well as you go through the season.
You mentioned re-recruiting your own team as well. What are those conversations like, especially after coming off a 3-9 season and then 5-7 the following year?
Yeah, some of them wasn't here the 3-9. So, but obviously this past season, I think the majority, everybody that we've been talking to, they want to be back. They want to come back. Obviously we got some guys that have a chance and opportunity to go at the next level, and they're going to weigh that and they're going to look at that and see. And but the conversations have been going really, really good, and I think we should have some clarity in that over the next week. Obviously when you finish the season, Saturday, and obviously you're trying to play for a bowl opportunity, you don't get that. You need a few days to let all this process, and it's a bit overwhelming, I think, right when the season ends. But I do think we'll get some clarity here over the next week. But we certainly have had a lot of conversations with the majority of our team. Very, very positive, we feel, coming out of all these meetings here over these last 2 days.
You mentioned the 900 snaps for freshmen. How much of the selling point is that to this class when you say it's not just talk that we tell you that you're going to come in and have a chance to play? We actually are using guys.
Yeah, we've done it. I think one of the big things is the guys that are coming in early. January we'll be starting back, and last year we'll do the same thing this year. Those guys got equal number of reps as guys that had played started here. So when you come in here in the spring, you're going to get an equal number of reps, and because I want all the young guys to be able to get those reps, to learn how offense, defense, and that to me is what gives them a chance in the fall. And so I think these guys know that. We've told them that you're going to get an opportunity, a chance to come in here and perform right from the start, and you're going to learn our offense and our defense. And I think those guys will continue to rise. You think like a Saints. Saints came in and got probably 400 reps last spring. wasn't really ready at that point in time, but then went through the whole summer, and then all of a sudden now in fall camp, man, he's starting to show, and next thing you know, he starts for us this year in a lot of games and had a really good season. So I think Simeon is another one. Sim Monte, some of these guys really had some great snaps for us. Gavin Grover and another one. So it's exciting to see what those guys will be able to do for us, and obviously we're excited about this group right here.
One running back, one quarterback. Does that signal that you're satisfied with some of the guys that you have, and or are you looking for more of those in the portal?
Yeah, I think quarterback wise, we feel good about that room. I feel good about those guys all coming back. And we'll see, over the next week. But I think running back wise, maybe we'll go out and look in the portal for a running back. I think about what Corey did for us over the last 2 seasons. What a workhorse he was. So what Evan Pryor did this past year, I feel like, his role can increase as we move forward. He's, was probably our biggest big play guy on offense this past year. With so many touchdowns, over 50 yards, and I think so potentially would go into the portal and get a running back. A guy who can come out and do some of the things that Corey did for us last year. And then I think the biggest need in the portal probably for us would be wide receivers. So we'll go out and need to get some playmakers at wide out. They can come in here and help us right away. That's probably the biggest need. And fortunately, wide receiver room in the portal is probably the most people out there that'll be in the portal. So, and then as you think about defense, probably a couple pass rushers. We need to get that. And then we're looking to add probably 3-ish DBs, whether it be safeties or corners. And so that'll be the other thing we're looking for in the portal. And we're already started on the portal and started making contacts with some guys that we're able to make contact with, and then it officially opens up Monday.
You guys got commitment from Zeb Kinsey, kind of when he was hurt, didn't play a lot his junior year. What did he show you on film his senior year to kind of back up that decision?
Yeah, he's a big athlete. He's we list him I think with 215, but he's been at 235. He's big. He can run. He's got great size. He came last year to camp and threw. He's got a really good, strong arm. So he's got a big upside, I think. And fortunately, we don't need him to have to play next year. I feel like come in and, get a lot of reps, see where you are, and continue to develop and grow. But I think what we're working with him is a lot of ability, size, strength, speed, strong arm, so all those things. And so now it'll be, working with him on a daily basis, see what he can and can't do. And I think, but I'm excited about Zeb. Zeb's probably out of all these guys, probably came here the most, was here every game, was here in the summer all the time. Great family, just a great human being. So, yeah, we're excited about Zeb. I think he'll work hard. He'll be one of those good weight room guys as well in the offseason because he's used to working.
One top 300 talent brought in over the first 2 real classes. What's been the biggest hang-up to bringing in elite 4-star, 5-star talent you've been getting in those conversations so far?
Yeah, no, we're in the conversations. We're in the conversations for sure. We've battled the SEC, the Big Ten for a lot of these guys. Had a few committed, ended up losing them there toward the end. But we're in those conversations, and we're not shying away. We're going to continue to try to recruit the top level. Now, you mentioned 4 and 5 stars. Some of those guys were 3-star guys that are going to the SEC. They're going to the Big Ten. We feel like they're great players. Now, the way they get rated sometimes, that's very subjective. But I do think we're going after top talent, and we're going to continue to battle these schools. I think there's a lot of things that are obviously involved with that, but we're not shying away. We're going to keep battling these guys and continue to hopefully get those guys in the future.
Besides the play on the field, one of the things that the players talked about almost on a weekly basis was how there was such a big culture shift this past season. When you're talking to these high school kids and they aren't even legally adults yet, how do you know that you're picking the right fits for your program?
Yeah, I just think over time, when we talk to them all the time, and we've been recruiting them for, some of them a year, I think you get to know them, you get to know their families, you get to know, if you're talking to them that much, you get to find out how they are really. It's not like when you talk to them one time every 3 months, they can put up a good face. But if it's every week and 2 or 3 times a week, you really get a feel for them. And so we got a great feel for these guys. We feel like they're the kind of guys we want in the locker room, character-wise, but also have good ability on the field. So we felt we did a really good job last year with all of those freshmen that we brought in, and we feel like the same now. Obviously, when they get here, we'll know more, and I think a lot of these guys will be here in January. That's the fun thing, because I think we'll get to go through spring practice with them, as we get back together with you guys, we'll have, some great updates for the guys and, see how when they first got here and how hard they're working and how spring practice goes. So I think that part is exciting.
You brought up Corey Kiner earlier. He posted on social media that he's planning on declaring for the NFL draft. What is an NFL team getting out of Corey if they choose to draft him?
Yeah, I mean, just a workhorse. I think he finished up the season maybe second in the country in forced missed tackles. He's going to get those tough yards that obviously every team wants. He's going to be able to protect on third down. He can step up and block a linebacker. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. But he's probably maybe one of the more consistent players I've ever been around to bring it every single day. And I think coaches at any level, they want consistency. They don't want to know what they're going to get whenever somebody shows up on a daily basis. Some guys are a roller coaster with their moods. He's not. He's always up. He's always ready. Ready for whatever the coach says, let's do today. I mean, man, you got to respect that. And he's as good as anybody I've been around. Particularly when you go out into a game on Saturday and he got the crap knocked out of him Saturday, maybe 25 carries, and then on Sunday he's right ready to go. Like that, I haven't seen that over my career out of guys like that. And so that's what they're going to get, man. And he's an unbelievable person. And so, but I think the consistency, it's hard to beat that, but you're going to get out of Corey.
Coach, you mentioned the defensive line aspect in this recruiting class. Talk about James Early, Tim Griffith, obviously guys who were involved later in their recruiting process. Talk about what they bring to the table with their size and length.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the biggest thing with those guys. I mean, they just have something that we don't really have. When you think about 6'5", 6'6", we think they have a huge upside and a lot of potential. And I think when you're looking at that, if we go out and try to go in the portal and guys that can actually play that are 6'6", like we're gonna have a hard time getting them because everybody's gonna want them. And you're gonna have to really pull out a checkbook to try to get those guys. But I think if you can get some of these guys in high school that are 6'5", 6'6", that have a huge upside and huge potential, and we've seen some of that on film out of these guys, I think we're excited about being able to work with them and get them in our program, get them with Coach Nico and his staff, and put them through the rigors in an off season and see what we're going to get out of that. So much of it's going to be determined by what they have inside of them. What kind of heart do they have? What kind of fight do they have? Are they going to bring it every single day? Are they going to be consistent in the weight room, just like we talked about with Corey? Because at that size, they could be really, really special. And that's what we're hoping for out of these guys.
You flipped some guys and had some guys flip. Mm-hmm. How are those conversations, or sometimes do you just find out on social media?
Man, I feel really bad for these guys, man. And we've created this is that they're pulled in so many different directions. And, now you got the NIL, you got money involved. Now we're, in-house money, and they got so many directions they're getting pulled, from their coaches to their family members to them themselves. They have a lot of options out there, and they're just trying to find the best for them. And it's tough for them to know 100% what their best option is. And some of them are back and forth. And I think some of the guys that flipped to us, obviously they're excited about this opportunity. Some of the guys that were on the fence and went somewhere else, I mean, they still loved us. They still they could see themselves playing here, but at the same time they're like, let me just try to go over here. You know what? We don't burn any bridges with any of these guys, because we all know. I mean, look at Corey Kiner, was at LSU. He's here. Look at Joe Royer, who was right up the street, and now he's here. Had 50 catches. So when these guys end up going to these schools, it's maybe not the end of the road for them to be a Bearcat. So we don't burn any bridges. We'll see how their careers go in the next semester or two, because I do know that there could be opportunity later on down the road, and so. But we know they call us. We talk to them. I mean, these guys are pretty stand-up guys to say, hey, coach, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm thinking about doing. And obviously you're disappointed when you don't get them, and obviously excited when you do. So, but that's probably life. And when you're looking at signing day throughout the whole country,
you're looking at year 3 or 4 of NIL, and finally maybe getting a feel of what that looks like, and then revenue share is sitting on the door for next year. How do you navigate all the change? How do you kind of look at these waters and try to figure out what comes next, when what comes next is usually an uncertainty for 2-3 years until it settles in?
Yeah, I mean, the last 3 to 4 years, there's been more change in college sports than maybe the last 50. And it's all happened so fast, and we're all trying to navigate that, to understand that. Some schools were more prepared 3 to 4 years ago than others, but I do think as we head to this house case that will pass probably this spring, and now everything's going to come in-house, that will normalize a lot of this, you know, and then it's going to be up to the athletic departments to figure out, you know, how much money they're going to give each sport. And, you know, but once that kind of hits, it'll normalize. But I still think that's going to take a couple years before that happens. We're still right now in a period of time where we're not in-house. You know, we're still NIL right now at least through the summer, but then it could turn to the house. So, I mean, there's so many moving parts right now. We're trying to, you know, navigate through that, be forward thinking with that, and I think we are. I think we've done a good job to position ourselves, to put ourselves in position to be very competitive as we move forward. You know, in the Big 12, you know, there's been teams that certainly were ahead of us over the last couple of years, but I think with this going in-house, it's going to give us an opportunity to level the playing field, so to speak, with the dollars. You know, as you think about that with recruits and with transfers.
No local guys in this class. Was that just a matter of a few flipped here and there, and then it's just you run out of time to try to really hit the local scene?
Yeah, I mean, we recruited Cincinnati hard, you know, all the way back last year, and, you know, we're in on a lot of the guys here and ended up, you know, losing out on some of the guys. But again, as I say, you know, we don't burn those relationships because I think sometimes these guys want to get away. They want to go check out a school, you know, in a Big Ten somewhere else. And, you know, if things maybe they don't play as much or things don't go as like that coaching staff said it would go, these guys will end up coming back home, just like Corey, just like Joe, you know. And I think, you know, so I don't think we're out of the woods yet with those guys. And I think that's the one thing about that's so different now than it was, say, 4 or 5 years ago when, hey, you signed this class, that was your guys. That's who you had. And that was it. But it's not that way now. I mean, it's every 6 months you're going to reevaluate your team, and you're going to see who's going to get in the portal and who's going to, you know, be in the portal to be able to come to your team. So I think it's completely different now. So I think, you know, you're semester to semester now with our team building.
Final question, Keegan.
You kind of hit on it earlier with the flips, but you identify guys really, really early, and then the SEC and the Big Ten schools get involved. Does it feel harder than in the past to hold on to these guys? Because it seems like a long time ago commitments were pretty secure, but now it just seems like it's kind of worse.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously very difficult to hold on to them. You know, I think number one, it says we're great at evaluating. We're getting on some kids before they got anything. Like a lot of times we're their first offer. I think back to our first junior day, and we'll have some more this year at the basketball games in January and February. We'll bring in some great guys, and, you know, out of 25 to 30 of those guys, the majority of them will have Power 4 offers. And, you know, we're getting some committed, and then, you know, these other guys are jumping in and on and all that. And, you know, but we're battling it. We're going to stay on it. We're going to get our share, I think, over time. You know, but it's, you know, you're battling these schools that have been at the Power 5 level for a long time. They have, you know, 100,000 seat stadiums that have indoors that are ready, that have great football facilities that are already in place, you know. So, you know, as you're battling these schools, that's what we're battling against. Now, we're building a new facility. It's going to be up and ready this summer, you know, which will be awesome to be able to walk recruits through that, you know. But the last 2 years, we haven't had that, you know. So everything matters, you know. To these recruits and these families, everything matters. And so, but we're not shying away from it. We're going to continue to recruit at that level, to try to bring in the top talent that we can throughout the country. You know, and we're going to get our share, and, you know, and I think we're setting ourselves up for some great success as we get in our new facility this summer, and as we move forward. So we're excited about it.
Actual final question, Mark.
Okay.
You talked a little bit about how much everything's been changing over the last few years and going forward with Rule 105 most likely coming into place next year, especially essentially getting rid of walk-ons. What are your feelings on that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like it. I mean, I was a walk-on. You know, I was just another slappy that somebody that gave an opportunity to. I remember when I first walked on, we brought in 55 freshmen, and by the time we were my senior year, 5 years later, there were 7 of us left. You know, by attrition, guys don't make it. You know, you end up kicking a bunch off just because they can't handle it. You know, and you're dealing in numbers. But now when you go down to 105, so now you're just going to limit the amount of guys that are going to get opportunity. And, you know, I think that's sad, you know, because you never know that extra 15 guys or so that there could be a diamond right there that maybe just wasn't ready out of high school, but he gets into a college and all of a sudden he's ready now and he's able to help you. And those guys end up being great players for you. Then they go on to be coaches and all you know, all the story, you know. And so we're going to lose that now with that. So, I think, you know, anybody that had an opportunity to walk on, and I've heard, you know, Coach Dabo's talked about it, he was a walk on. I mean, and a bunch of other coaches have talked about the same thing. And I think that's sad, you know, because we're limiting opportunity for guys that maybe could turn out to be something great for their universities that maybe now won't get that opportunity.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, thanks, guys.
Let's go.